Welcome to the Cowboys Report. It is a new month, which means we've got new like battles. Everybody starting at 0. Let's start things off strong. Like the video for me, please and thank you, and give us an early lead over all the other Chat Sports NFL YouTube channels. On today's show, we'll look at some free agent targets as we hit the post-June 1st deadline. I guess we are technically a few hours away from it all counting, but that's where we're at here. Dallas has claimed they aren't done looking for talent. I question they might be until training camp. There are several notable free agents, and they have around $33 million in salary cap space. The Cowboys technically designated Zack Martin's retirement as a post-June 1st move, even though he'll forever be a Cowboy, tired or not. The contract was pretty much mostly structured to account for that, to handle it, to factor it in of this is probably going to be his last year. So you don't really free up that much more additional space. There is a little bit of added savings to it, but you were kind of just shy of the $33 million space. So that's what you're able to add with this move to designate Martin post-June 1. And you get a little bit of extra savings. There will be a big cap number next season, but you knew that going in. He's played pretty cheaply relative to the cap for several years now. Of note, before we dive into some of the top free agents here, last year's video did get 2 players right. There were 2 players the Cowboys ended up signing, more in training camp, which is worth mentioning here. Carl Lawson and Linval Joseph were both on the list, and both ended up joining the Cowboys before the season began. So I want to begin with some free agent corners. And first up is Stephon Gilmore, who led last year's video on this, by the way. He did not sign until deeper into training camp with the Vikings last season, and I could see something very similar happening this time around. And the Cowboys still make some sense. There was obviously the visit with Dallas and, at the Star for the retirement for Martin. And it was like, okay, or Tyron Smith. That's interesting. Why is that? What was he doing? Been some reports of it was non-Cowboys related business, which, okay. But this remains an option. We don't know when Diggs is going to be healthy. We don't know if Rebel's going to be healthy for week 1 or if he's even 100% able to be the guy we think he can be long-term for week 1. I don't know if Josh Butler's going to be out there come week 1. If guys like Kalen Carson, Kaiir Elam, Izzy Mukwamu, Andrew Booth, those guys don't look impressive. Those guys don't take a step forward. Kind of need to go get another corner as far as I'm concerned. So would you bring back Stephon Gilmore? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off for me at the pinned comment of today's show. A name many of you would like, but we have to be patient for, is Asante Samuel. He's coming off only 4 games played last year due to injury. He is not going to be, fully cleared until July. He's got a checkup following a neck surgery, which is just red flags galore on that front. But this is, I think, a good fit for Dallas if they can get past the arm length issues, which they might not ever be able to do, quite frankly. But I think this is a top-end option at a position of potential need. We did a whole video on Mike Hilton, so I won't go too far in-depth in this one. You can go check it out. It was the this player might be the perfect fit for the Cowboys. A blitzing, run-stopping, focused nickel is actually something that Matt Eberflus likes. That's what Hilton is. I don't like him that much in coverage, but if Mukwamu does not end up taking a step, if he's not the guy at nickel, maybe Hilton could be a stopgap option for you. Another notable name out there who I feel like he's going to find a potential starting spot, maybe in Seattle. He's been linked there pretty heavily, is Rasul Douglas. This is an outside starting corner option, listed at 6'2", by the way, so he's got good size. If you want to commit to Bland in the nickel and have another outside corner option, if you don't trust, Savone's health or Diggs' health, Douglas, I think, is one of the better options, even after a bit of a down year in 2024. Another inside-outside piece, Kendall Fuller. Again, I think there are some decent corners out there. Age is an issue for a lot of these guys, which why they're unsigned is into June here. But Fuller is an option for me. I think this is a potential piece who can do inside-outside stuff for you in what is kind of I'll call it a solid, post-June free agency market. Jack Jones is available. James Bradbury, issues with those guys. Bradbury is really inconsistent at this point in his career, kind of lost his job basically last year. Arthur Millette and Cam Sutton have played nickel, but they're not the same guys they were in their prime. But there are corners out there. So name a player who you want to sign. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Next up is J.K. Dobbins. We'll hit some free agent backs here. I think Dobbins, he was more productive last year than anybody currently on your roster. And I'm a little surprised he's still unsigned. He did miss some time with injuries. The injuries in general have been a significant red flag. I'm not surprised he's unsigned right now. I'm surprised he wasn't signed like in March, frankly. Big note here. The Chargers use the not often used UFA tender on J.K. Dobbins. That means it's worth $1.1 million for 2025. If he signs with a new team before July 22nd, he is eligible for comp picks to be counted on in that category. Now, you could give him a $2 million deal. He probably won't get enough playing time to overcome that, so it doesn't have to impact comp picks necessarily. But if he does have the team post July 22, his rights are owned by the Chargers. So it's not used very often because it's not exactly a popular tool with agents, for example. But you got to either pay him a decent amount to get him to leave the Chargers, or he's going to go back. But then he kind of be RB3 behind Najee Harris and Marion Hampton. So I bet he signed somewhere. I just don't know for how much. But it is worth mentioning. I would kind of prefer Dobbins over Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. You're kind of eating some money you could have just given away in the first place, but we're talking $1 million, $2 million at most. As long as you're not worried about as long as the health checks out for Dobbins, which is always going to be a red flag going forward, and as long as you trust the comp pick side, why not? Let's go to Nick Chubb, the running back. Again, health is probably a bigger issue here. He's played 10 games the past 2 seasons. That should raise some red flags. And the fact that he wasn't good last year. Neither Chubb or Dobbins were at their best versions in 2024, but Dobbins outplayed Chubb by a pretty good margin. Still, if you can do 1 year, buy low, cheap, no guaranteed, earn a roster spot, I'm not going to complain about that for anybody. I want to beat the June like record on a single video. 1,351. We broke the record last year after it was 957 back in 2023. Can we get to 1,352 on today's show? If you haven't already, do me a favor, like today's show. How about the Gus bus? If you want a more power back, Edwards does stand out, but we've seen signs of decline for Edwards. He missed time with injury last year. He went from a 5-yard per carry guy to, he's at 4.1. The touchdowns looked great and kind of maybe boosted his overall value out there. And then down to 3.6 in 2024. The other available backs in free agency, I don't love them. Cam Akers, Jamal Williams, Jeff Wilson, Deonta Foreman. I don't know if those guys are any better than what you have on the roster right now. All right, some other top defensive free agents I want to mention here, and then we're going to do a big list of just overall guys. Justin Simmons. I mentioned safeties here because I think these guys can still start. And we've seen over the years, safety has always been a not highly valued position. Justin Simmons was solid last year for the Atlanta Falcons. I thought he played pretty well. Not as good as his peak. He's probably never going to be his peak again, but I think if you polled 100 NFL coaches, execs, how many would take Simmons over Malik Hooker? I think at least some, if not the majority. A guy with Matt Eberflus ties is Julian Blackmon. I am confused, frankly, why he's unsigned. He's been a multi-year starter for the Indianapolis Colts. He has been pretty productive. I don't think he's a top 30 safety, but I think I'd have a hard time finding 64 safeties that were better than him in the NFL. So again, that's a notable name. We will have more Cowboys news and rumors. If players get signed, we have you covered. So hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. Another defensive free agent here, Quandre Diggs. It's Diggs. We want to mention him. He's been a link to the Cowboys for years now. Wasn't as productive last year, though. And I kind of wonder, how much he really has left in the tank. He is at the age, though, where it's kind of I don't know if I want to sign with the team in May or in March and April and May unless I get big money. I'll sign in July or something and cut down on my, or add more free time to my calendar. How about Linval Joseph? What if you just brought him back to give you some added depth along the defensive line. Off the streets last year, he was fine. He gave you snaps. Like, you can get 15 to 20 snaps out of Linval Joseph and not be a massive liability, which I don't know if we know that about Toia and Justin Rogers right now. The issue I face at DT, where I would love to get a better defensive tackle, far better than Linval Joseph. The issue I face is, who the hell is that? Armin Watts, Taven Bryan, Maurice Hurst are not nose guards. Khalil Davis is, but like, is he better than the wild card 7th rounders? Carlos Watkins, like, kind of just a guy. It's not a good group. That's why you almost have to go trades to find a defensive tackle, which we did on a previous video. So will the Cowboys sign anyone before training camp? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show. I'm going to go rapid fire on just some of the other top available free agents. And if more players get cut after June 1st, we'll probably do full bids on those too. Jedrick Wills, if you want a new swing tackle. Will Hernandez made a lot of sense pre-Tyler Booker pick, not so much afterward. I think Von Miller, Jadeveon Clowney, Zadarius Smith, Matthew Judon are good edge rushers. You already go 6 deep. I don't see the realistic 53-man roster path to justify adding one of those guys at their likely costs. Eric Kendricks is still unsigned. C.J. Mosley, Kaiser White. It's probably more of an injury occurs at linebacker option, but is worth mentioning. And then, Von Bell's also a semi-notable safety who played a lot last year for the Bengals.